Madrid, New Mexico is nestled on the northeast side of the Sandia Mountains, midway along the Turquoise Trail National Scenic Byway, and located just south of Santa Fe in the mineral-rich Ortiz Mountains. Around 1500 years ago, Native Americans looked for turquoise and lead in the nearby hills. But when the Spaniards arrived in 1540, the newcomers ignored the turquoise, focusing instead on silver and gold. A century passed and they returned for silver, forcing the indigenous population to work in the mines until the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. The Spanish crown reconquered the area in 1693. United States gold miners first came to the area in 1822, and bituminous or soft coal was extracted in the area known as Coal Bank. The Spaniards continued searching for riches and established farms and ranches. The region remained sparsely populated until large coal deposits were dug around 1835. 5 years later, placer gold deposits were seen in the San Pedro Mountains, attracting prospectors and fueling Madrid's growth. Coal was mined from Coal Bank to operate the gold mine at Dolores. Years later, General Stephen Watts Kearny crossed the region, relying on local coal supplies to sustain his army. His troops marched through Bernillo amid the turmoil of the Mexican-American conflict, at a time when Jose Marino Leba had just been born on July 25, 1857. Resentful of the takeover, Leba was raised by his grandfather in a home behind what is now the San Antonito Catholic Mission Church, formerly Señor de Mapima Mission Church, established in 1885, and Leba would one day earn the name Sandia Mountain Desperado. Fortune seekers and bandits alike swirled around the New Mexico Mining Company, which owned 108 square miles of the Ortiz Mining Grant, all of Coal Bank. During the Civil War, coal was mined to supply military establishments at Santa Fe and Las Vegas. Colonel Charles Potter arrived in the area on October 13, 1880, hired by the U.S. Geological Survey to investigate mining activity. Wearing fancy duds, he stayed overnight at the cabin of a Frenchman named La Perche, who warned him of bandits. Potter replied confidently, "I have no fear. If they take me, it will be at a long shot," boasting of his close combat revolver skills. But on October 14th, Potter was in Harris Canyon, where he stopped at a cabin owned by California Joe to ask for directions. Unbeknownst to him, it was a hideout for bandits led by Marino Leba, who were having lunch. They instructed Potter down a lonely side road, and as soon as Potter left, Leba and 4 gang members took a shortcut to intercept him. The ambush site was secluded, and the bandits took their first shot. Potter returned fire when a second shot from the gang struck Potter's horse, felling it. Potter managed to unsaddle one of his attackers, but was quickly hit in the stomach, followed by a bullet to the head. The murderers took what they could and piled brush over his body and his horse, igniting them ablaze before setting off. When Potter's family in Rhode Island stopped receiving his letters, they grew worried and asked Ferdinand Van Zandt to travel from Leadville to Albuquerque to investigate. Governor C.C. Van Zandt placed notices in the Albuquerque and Santa Fe newspapers offering a $1,000 reward for his whereabouts. Army patrols were dispatched from Fort Macy in his search. Marino Leba returned to his home in Puerto de Luna on the Pecos River. Leba was 23 years old, about 6 feet tall, and weighed about 180 pounds. He had dark blue eyes and spoke with a slight impediment. Charles Lummis, a teller of tall tales, later wrote that he met Leba in 1884 in Golden and described him as Herculean with astonishing agility and almost matchless skill with the revolver. One of his favorite pastimes being to spur his fleet horse through a village, shooting off the heads of chickens as he galloped past. Lummis claimed Leba was a known murderer who walked Golden's streets freely, while peace officers from Santa Fe always took their very good care not to find him. But in December of 1880, Sheriff Pat Garrett and Deputy Barney Mason rode into Puerto de Luna with two prisoners, intending to deliver them to Deputy Romero and his men from Las Vegas, New Mexico. Garrett later recounted in his book, The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid. I was sitting at Alexander Grikalski's store when Juanito Maez, a noted desperado thief and murderer, approached me, threw up his hands, and said he had heard I wanted him and he had come to surrender. I replied that I did not know him, had no warrant for him, and did not want him. As Maez left, a Mexican named Marino Leba entered with his hand on a pistol in his pocket. He walked up to me and said he would like to see any dead gringo arrest him. I told him to go away and not annoy me. He went out on the porch where he continued his insults. I finally went out and told him that I had no papers for him and no business with him, that whatever I did have, if he intended to hunt me, I would be sure to find him. With an oath, he raised his left arm in a threatening manner and his right arm still on the grip of the pistol. I slapped him off the porch and he landed on his feet. He drew the pistol and misfired, but my pistol went off prematurely and the ball striking at his feet, the second shot went through his shoulder before he escaped. The chain of events linking Marino Leba to Colonel Potter's murder began in late January of the next year. Bernalillo County Sheriff Perfecto Armijo discovered that a gold watch, having been melted down but the parts were still intact, matched one of Potter's. He had pawned it at J.K. Bassey's loan office in Albuquerque. Under questioning, members of Leba's gang confessed and led the sheriff to Potter's remains on the east side of the Sandia Mountains. The only clue to his identity was a few fragments of his coat, adorned with dog head buttons. Public outrage was swift. Lynchings began almost immediately, though a minstrel troupe, of all things, was performing in the courtroom that night, which delayed the inevitable with a raucous time. By midnight, though, vigilantes hanged 4 of them from a wooden beam in front of the jail. Well, that left Marino Leba and Faustino Gutierrez. Gutierrez was captured in early February and, hoping to save himself, offered to reveal Leba's hiding place. Shackled and accompanied by 4 deputies, Gutierrez led the posse to Puerto de Luna, where Leba was taken, and on his trip to Albuquerque, he did escape under the cover of the night. Gutierrez would not be so lucky, meeting the end of a rope. The hunt for Leba intensified, and as he stole horses, the posse grew. On March 15, 1881, they cornered him about 20 miles east of his home. Leba fired his Winchester, but the gun shattered, leaving him scrambling. He surrendered with a bloody left forearm, and Leba was taken to the San Miguel County Jail in Las Vegas, New Mexico, with plans to try to keep him in Albuquerque for Potter's murder. But with every witness lynched, Leba would instead face charges for assault with intent to kill and murder of Pat Garrett, among other minor charges. Attorney General Thomas B. Catron signed all. After 2 days, the jury found Leba guilty and fined him only $80. It seemed trivial in comparison, but the jurors believed Garrett had provoked the incident, and as they knew of his murder of Billy the Kid a month earlier. The next year, Leba saw himself behind bars again for horse theft and resisting an officer. He received a sentence of 7 years and 1 month. Leba was sent to the federal prison at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. After nearly 4 years, he was transferred to the new territorial prison in Santa Fe on March 2, 1886, where he became a model inmate and was granted a pardon. All for naught, as in early of 1887, Leba was again terrorizing villages along the east slopes of the Sandia and Manzano Mountains. 3 men were murdered and robbed at the Lackey Ranch. The house was burned, with Joseph Lackey's body in it. On March 29th, Deputy Sheriffs Joaquin Montoyo and Carlos Jacome spotted Leba in the Sandia foothills 6 miles southwest of Golden. Jacome, who knew Leba well, approached to greet him. When Montejo appeared, Leba grew suspicious, dismounted, and placed his right hand on his revolver tucked under his belt. This was a noted frontier style of the time. Montoya extended his right hand, but Leba offered his left. Montoya warned, "Don't draw your gun. Give me your right hand. We shall not harm you, but you must consider yourself our prisoner." Leba cursed and drew anyway, and while Leba's bullet ripped through Montoya's hat, grazing his skull, Leba was killed on the spot. The deputies carried the body to the railroad station at Cerrillos and notified the sheriff in Santa Fe. While Leba's wife begged to reclaim the body, the corpse was instead laid out on a table in front of the jail, where thousands came to view it. Back in nearby Madrid, the coal industry surged while the arrival of the Santa Fe Railroad and production from what the locals called Coal Gulch was so significant that a 6.5-mile spur was built to connect the mines to the main rail line. Madrid's coal fields stretched across 30 square miles, linked by tunnels between Lucas and White Ash, Peacock, and Cook mines. At its peak, more than 3,000 people lived and worked in Madrid, outnumbering Albuquerque's own population. The coal deposits became known as the Cerrillos Coal Bank after the New Mexico and Southern Pacific Railroad reached the region in 1880 in honor of the nearby Cerrillos station. Following this, William Kesey discovered anthracite coal, and Madrid coal was soon shipped to Pueblo, Colorado for steel production. Ownership passed to the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, which dominated operations for many years. After more than a decade of unregulated mining, the railroad acquired the property in 1891, paying $1 million and creating subsidiaries to manage the mines. Madrid, then called Coal Gulch, began to take shape as a proper town. Prefabricated wooden cabins, dismantled in Kansas and shipped by train, were reassembled to house miners and their families. The Cerrillos Coal and Iron Company designed the town's layout, with Cerrillos Coal Railroad building a 6-mile spur from Waldo Junction to the new camp of Keysville, which was soon absorbed into Madrid. By 1893, a 7-story anthracite breaker dominated the landscape, and by the end of the decade, all coal production in the region had consolidated. The town was officially renamed around 1894, but it remained a company-owned settlement for the next 80 years. At the turn of the century, Madrid thrived as a classic company town, and while mining was dangerous with risks of cave-ins, explosions, and gas poisoning, still the company tried to boost morale with perks like free electricity and annual festivities. Thomas Edison even visited, experimenting with gold extraction in the Ortiz Mountains, and later helped establish a local power plant. By 1906, coal production in Madrid was fully consolidated under the Albuquerque and Cerrillos Coal Company, managed by George Caseman. Water was hauled in by railroad tank cars from springs 5 miles away, and company houses were often lit by a single bulb that worked only at night. Residents relied on the company's store for essentials, though many wives secretly ordered their goods from mail-order catalogs. Oscar Joseph Huber became superintendent in 1919, helping to build schools, a hospital, a company store, and even a motion picture theater on the newly paved Main Street. Huber also founded the Employees Club, requiring miners to contribute to community projects and to participate in events such as the 4th of July celebration and the now famous Christmas light display. Winter saw 150,000 Christmas lights powered by coal-fed generators, and Huber, with help from Edison, built the first illuminated baseball park west of the Mississippi, home to the Madrid miners. With the decline of coal and the shift to natural gas, Madrid went up for sale in 1954. Thankfully, Oscar Huber's son, Joe, began renting and selling old company houses to artists and artisans, sparking a creative revival. Among its enduring landmarks are the Miners' Amusement Hall, the Engine House Theater, the Coal Mining Museum, and the Mine Shaft Tavern. The tavern was originally built in 1895, and although it was Burnt in a fire, it kept its original interior and the longest standing bar in the Southwest. Above the bar, artist Ross Ward's work celebrates Madrid's colorful past. This has been Biographies of the West. My name is Lorin Morgan-Richards. Thanks for watching.